In the vast expanse of space, silence had always been our constant companion. That is, until 6 months ago, when the first transmission reached us. I still remember that cold December morning at the Deep Space Listening Array in New Mexico, where a simple cup of coffee turned into the most important moment in human history. The message wasn't complex, just a series of mathematical sequences that proved its artificial origin. Within hours, every major observatory on Earth confirmed the same signal. As the lead communications specialist at the array, I knew we were no longer alone. The United Nations convened an emergency session, and for once, the world stood united in anticipation. We decoded more transmissions over the following weeks. They were messages from what we now know as the Galactic Empire, a vast confederation of species spanning thousands of star systems. Their initial communications seemed peaceful, expressing interest in establishing contact with our emerging civilization. But something felt off about their choice of words, their careful phrasing that reminded me of old colonial documents I'd studied in history class. It wasn't until the third month that we intercepted communications not meant for us. Our quantum detection systems, primitive by their standards, picked up encrypted transmissions between their scout ships hiding behind Jupiter's moons. The decryption took weeks, but what we found chilled us to the bone. Earth wasn't viewed as a potential ally. We were seen as a resource-rich world with a manageable population. Their assessment labeled us as technically capable, but militarily insignificant. The Empire had been watching us for decades, cataloging our weaknesses, studying our divisions. They expected us to welcome them as gods, bearing gifts of advanced technology. In reality, these gifts would be our chains. But they made one crucial mistake. They underestimated human ingenuity and our fierce desire for freedom. While their ships lurked in our solar system, we weren't sitting idle. Every nation, every research facility, worked tirelessly to prepare. We had something they didn't expect, the advantage of desperation and unity born from a common threat. Using their own technology against them, we managed to send a single message back through their network. It reached not just the Empire, but every civilization in their domain. The message was simple yet carried the weight of humanity's resolve. Earth is not your colony. We know your intentions. Any hostile action will be met with consequences that will echo through your empire for generations to come. We had no superweapons, no massive fleet of starships, but we had something more valuable, knowledge of their communications network and a plan they never saw coming. The quantum entanglement device we developed could disrupt their entire faster-than-light communication system. One push of a button would throw their empire into chaos. They didn't know if we were bluffing. The beauty of it was, neither did we, but that uncertainty, that human capacity to stand against overwhelming odds, gave them pause. For the first time in their history, a primitive species had not only detected their surveillance, but had the audacity to threaten them back. Now, as I look at the night sky from the array's observation deck, I know they're still out there, watching, calculating. Our warning bought us time, but for how long? The Empire isn't used to being challenged, especially not by a species they considered barely worth noting in their vast catalogs of conquerable worlds. The real question isn't whether they'll return. It's what humanity will do with this precious time we've bought ourselves. Because next time, a warning might not be enough. The years following our warning were marked by an unprecedented era of human cooperation. The once divided nations of Earth worked together with a singular purpose that would have seemed impossible just a decade ago. Our message to the Empire had bought us time, but we knew it was borrowed time at best. I spent countless nights at the array, monitoring the distant signals that grew fainter as their ships retreated to the outer reaches of our solar system. They hadn't left entirely. That would have been too much to hope for. Instead, they watched from afar, probably trying to determine if our threat was genuine. The silence from their direction was more unnerving than any hostile message could have been. The world's greatest minds came together in what we called Project Sentinel. Underground facilities sprouted up across every continent, hidden from orbital detection. We reversed engineered what little we understood of their technology from the intercepted transmissions. Every breakthrough, no matter how small, was treated as crucial. We couldn't match their technological advancement of millennia within a few years, but we could learn to fight smarter, not harder. What fascinated me most was how their presence united humanity in ways that no other event in history had managed. Ancient rivalries were set aside, resources were shared, and knowledge flowed freely between nations. Children in schools now learned advanced quantum physics alongside their regular subjects, preparing the next generation for what might come. But it wasn't just about technology. We studied their psychology through their transmissions, learning about their hierarchical society and their almost pathological need for order and control. The Empire had never faced resistance quite like ours. Most civilizations they encountered either surrendered immediately or were too primitive to pose any threat. We occupied an unusual middle ground that seemed to confound them. 3 years into our preparations, we detected something troubling. The quantum fluctuations around Neptune's orbit suggested they were building something massive, possibly a forward operating base. Our warning had deterred them temporarily, but they weren't giving up. They were planning, adapting, looking for weaknesses in our defense that we might have overlooked. The pressure to improve our defensive capabilities increased. We developed a network of quantum sensors throughout the solar system, disguised as ordinary space debris. Every day brought new challenges, new discoveries, and new reasons to worry. The Empire's ships were growing bolder, venturing closer to Mars, testing our reaction times. What kept me awake at night wasn't just the threat of invasion. It was the knowledge that we were witnessing history in the making. Humanity stood at a crossroads. We could either emerge from this crisis stronger and more united than ever, or we could become just another footnote in the Empire's long list of conquered worlds. During one of my late-night monitoring sessions, I noticed something unusual in the signal patterns. The Empire's communications had changed subtly, suggesting internal disagreements about how to handle the Earth situation. Our resistance had sparked debate within their ranks, something that hadn't happened in centuries according to their own historical records. This revelation gave us hope, but it also made them more dangerous. A divided empire might be more likely to take drastic action to prove its strength. As I watched the new data stream across my screens, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were approaching a turning point. The question was, would we be ready when it came? The clock was ticking, and somewhere out there in the cold darkness of space, decisions were being made that would determine the fate of our world. The turning point came sooner than any of us expected. On a quiet Sunday morning, our quantum sensors detected massive energy surges near Neptune. At first, we thought it was a malfunction. The readings were off the charts, but as secondary confirmations came in from observatories worldwide, the truth became clear. The Empire was mobilizing. Their construction project, hidden behind Neptune's blue storms, revealed itself to be more than just a forward base. They had built what appeared to be a massive portal array, likely capable of bringing their main fleet directly into our solar system. Our earlier warning about disrupting their communications suddenly felt inadequate against this new threat. I remember racing through the array's corridors, the emergency klaxons blaring overhead. In the control center, screens displayed real-time data from our solar system's outer reaches. The Empire's ships were moving in formation, and the portal was showing signs of activation. We had hours, maybe less, before everything we prepared for would be put to the test. Project Sentinel's defensive systems were activated worldwide. Quantum disruptors, hidden in orbit and across Earth's surface, hummed to life. We had spent years developing this technology, reverse-engineered from their transmissions and enhanced with human innovation. But would it be enough against their full might? The United Nations Emergency Council convened virtually within minutes. I watched their faces on the screen, leaders from every nation, united in this crucial moment. They had one decision to make. Should we strike first with our quantum disruption network, potentially revealing our true capabilities, or wait to see the Empire's next move? As the debate raged on, our sensors detected something unexpected. The Empire's ships were broadcasting on all frequencies, not just their secure channels, but across the entire electromagnetic spectrum. They wanted to make sure we couldn't miss their message. The transmission that followed was unlike anything we'd intercepted before. The message wasn't in their usual clinical, diplomatic language. It was direct, almost desperate. Their portal array wasn't a weapon. It was an escape route. The Empire, that seemingly invincible force that had terrorized our thoughts for years, was running from something that even their vast civilization feared. But before we could fully process this revelation, our quantum sensors detected new energy signatures emerging from the outer darkness. These weren't Imperial ships. The energy patterns were completely foreign. As I studied the readings, my hands trembling over the console, I realized we were about to be caught in the middle of a conflict far bigger than our struggle with the Empire. The new signatures were approaching rapidly, their technology operating on principles that defied our understanding. The Empire's ships began moving into defensive positions, their previous interest in Earth seemingly forgotten in the face of this greater threat. Our solar system was about to become a battleground between two alien forces, and humanity was trapped in the middle. In those tense moments, as we watched these cosmic giants prepare for war in our cosmic backyard, I understood that our next decision would determine not just our fate, but possibly the course of galactic history. The Empire, in their arrogance, had pushed us to develop defenses that might now be crucial for something far more important than just our own survival. The quantum disruption network we built could affect more than just Imperial communications. It could potentially influence the very fabric of space-time around our solar system. As the unknown forces drew closer and the Empire's portal array pulsed with increasing energy, we faced a choice that would echo through the ages. The next few minutes would determine if humanity would remain a spectator in this cosmic conflict, or if we would take action that would forever change our place in the galaxy. The decision was made for us when the first shots were fired. The unknown entities launched what looked like tendrils of pure energy toward the Empire's portal array. The Empire's ships responded with weapons that distorted the very space around them. Our sensors could barely process what they were seeing. The battle was being fought with physics we hadn't even theorized yet. But in the midst of this chaos, our quantum sensors detected something that made my blood run cold. The energy weapons being exchanged weren't just affecting their targets. They were creating ripples in space-time that were propagating toward Earth. Each blast was like a stone thrown into a cosmic pond, and we were about to be hit by waves that could tear our planet apart. That's when we discovered why the Empire had really chosen our solar system. It wasn't just about conquering Earth. They had detected something in our system's unique configuration that made it ideal for their portal technology. The complex gravitational dance of our planets created natural stability points that they had intended to exploit. But now, with their enemies pursuing them, these same points were becoming dangerous amplifiers of the battle's destructive forces. I watched in horror as the first temporal shockwave approached Mars, literally bending the space around the red planet. We had minutes, perhaps seconds, before similar waves would reach Earth. The quantum disruption network we built as a defensive weapon suddenly seemed like our only hope for survival, but not in the way we'd intended. "We need to activate the network now," I shouted across the control room, my voice barely steady. But not to attack, to shield. The theory had always been there in our research. If our quantum disruptors could interfere with their communications, they might also be able to create a kind of temporal barrier around Earth. The UN Emergency Council didn't even wait for a vote. The authorization came through instantly, and across the globe, our hidden quantum installations began powering up. We had never tested the system at full capacity. Doing so might have revealed our capabilities to the Empire. Now we had no choice but to hope our calculations had been correct. As I initiated the activation sequence, something unprecedented happened. The quantum field we generated didn't just create a shield. It began interacting with Earth's own magnetic field in ways our models hadn't predicted. The combined effect created a phenomenon that our instruments couldn't even measure. We had accidentally discovered something that neither the Empire nor their enemies had considered. Earth itself had defenses we hadn't fully understood. The battlefield above our heads suddenly shifted. Both the Empire's ships and their mysterious attackers pulled back, their weapons momentarily silent. Our quantum field had grown beyond our control, extending through the solar system like a web of invisible threads. It was connecting to something, or something was connecting to it. Through my console speakers came a sound that shouldn't have been possible in the vacuum of space. a deep, resonant hum that seemed to vibrate through reality itself. The quantum field was no longer just our creation. It had become a conduit for something far more ancient and powerful. As I stared at the readings, trying to make sense of what was happening, a new transmission cut through all channels. But this wasn't from the Empire or their pursuers. The message was encoded in a way that seemed to write itself directly into our consciousness, carrying with it the weight of eons. Earth, it seemed, had been protecting itself long before humanity had evolved, and we had just awakened its oldest guardians. The ancient guardians revealed themselves not as beings, but as a fundamental force woven into the fabric of our solar system. The quantum field we created had synchronized with a vast network of gravitational anomalies, a defense system left behind by a civilization that had inhabited Earth millions of years before us. Their technology wasn't built of metal and energy, but of space-time itself. Above our heads, the battle between the Empire and their pursuers came to an abrupt halt as massive distortions began forming throughout the solar system. These weren't the chaotic ripples from their weapons. These were controlled, purposeful alterations in reality. The anomalies began herding both alien fleets away from Earth, like shepherds guiding unruly flocks. In the control room, our instruments were detecting patterns in the quantum field that perfectly matched mathematical sequences we discovered in ancient archaeological sites around the world. The symbols found in places like the Göbekli Tepe and deep in the Amazon hadn't been religious markings. They were fragments of an operational manual, waiting for humanity to advance enough to understand them. The Empire's portal array, their supposed ace in the hole, began to destabilize as the ancient defense system exerted its influence. Their ships attempted to compensate, but they were fighting against forces that had been fine-tuned over millions of years. The portal collapsed in on itself, creating a localized time distortion that trapped several Imperial vessels in a moment of endless repetition. Their mysterious pursuers tried to push through the quantum barriers, only to find their advanced weapons turn back upon themselves. Each attempt to breach the defense system only made it stronger, as if it was learning and adapting. Our quantum network, primitive as it was, had served as a key to unlock something far more sophisticated. But the true revelation came when we decoded the messages embedded in the quantum field. The ancient civilization hadn't abandoned Earth. They had become part of its defensive system, transforming their consciousness into the very forces that protected our solar system. They had seen the rise and fall of countless empires across the galaxy, waiting for a species that would prove worthy of their legacy. In an ironic twist, it was the Empire's threat that had pushed humanity to develop the technology needed to awaken this system. Our quantum experiments, driven by desperation and unity, had proven that we were ready for the responsibility that came with such power. The ancient guardians hadn't just been protecting Earth, they had been testing us. As the alien fleets retreated to the edges of our solar system, a final message pulsed through the quantum network. It wasn't just meant for us in the control room, but for every human on Earth. The message carried with it not just words, but understanding, knowledge that downloaded directly into our collective consciousness. We suddenly knew that we weren't alone, had never been alone, but we also weren't ready for the full truth. The Empire and their pursuers vanished from our sensors, pushed back through corridors of warped space to the far reaches of the galaxy. But they left behind a changed humanity, one that now understood its true place in the cosmic order. We weren't just an emerging civilization. We were the inheritors of a legacy beyond our imagination. As I looked at the data streaming across my screen one last time, I realized that our warning to the Empire had been prophetic in ways we couldn't have known. There would indeed be consequences echoing through their empire for generations to come, but not from our threats, from their failure to recognize that Earth itself had chosen its own guardians long ago. And now, those guardians included us. In the months that followed, humanity grappled with its new reality. The quantum network remained active, humming quietly in the background of our daily lives. We could feel its presence now, a gentle reminder of the responsibility we'd inherited. The ancient guardians had retreated back into their vigil, but their knowledge remained with us, slowly revealing itself as we proved ready to understand it. Project Sentinel evolved into something greater, the Terran Guardian Initiative. Instead of focusing solely on defense, we began exploring the vast library of scientific knowledge hidden within Earth's quantum field. The technology we'd created to fight the Empire now served as a bridge to understanding our true heritage. Every discovery led to more questions, each answer revealing new mysteries about our place in the cosmic order. The United Nations underwent a transformation as well. The cooperation forced by crisis became a permanent state of human civilization. Old borders began to fade in importance as humanity realized that we were all inheritors of the same legacy. The petty differences that had divided us for millennia seemed insignificant compared to our shared destiny among the stars. Some nights, I still return to the array where it all began. The coffee doesn't taste quite as bitter anymore, and the night shift feels less lonely. We maintain our vigil, not out of fear now, but out of duty. The Empire never returned, and their mysterious pursuers became just another entry in our growing database of galactic civilizations. But we detected other watchers, other species observing Earth from afar, perhaps wondering how a primitive world had accessed such power. The most profound change wasn't in our technology or politics, but in our understanding of time itself. The ancient guardians had shown us that human history was just the latest chapter in Earth's story. Our civilization wasn't the first to reach for the stars, and if we proved worthy of our inheritance, we wouldn't be the last. We were part of a grand cycle, stretching back millions of years and forward into countless possible futures. Our quantum disruption network, which we once thought would be our last defense against invasion, turned out to be our first step toward joining a much larger community. The knowledge left behind by the ancient guardians suggested that there were other worlds like ours, protected planets waiting for their inhabitants to evolve enough to awaken their own guardians. We weren't alone in our journey. We were part of a vast, patient plan to nurture civilizations capable of understanding the true nature of the cosmos. As I finish recording this account, a new signal is emerging from the quantum field. It's different from the Imperial transmissions or the ancient guardians' messages. Something is stirring in the depths of space, something that recognizes Earth not as a target for conquest, but as a beacon of hope. Perhaps it's another protected world whose guardians have awakened. Perhaps it's something else entirely. But this time we're ready, not with weapons or threats, but with the wisdom to understand that every encounter, every challenge, is an opportunity to prove ourselves worthy of the trust placed in us by those who came before. The universe, we've learned, is not just a battlefield for empires to conquer. It's a garden where civilizations are grown, tested, and given the chance to bloom. Our warning to the Empire may have saved Earth, but it was our response to the crisis that proved we deserved to be saved. As humanity takes its first true steps into the galactic community, we carry with us not just the power of the ancient guardians, but the responsibility to prove every day that their trust in us was well placed. The story of Earth's awakening isn't over. It's only just beginning.